I'll be drawing with Russell shortly. Starting up again on some of these streaming things that I used to do, and then I stopped because of trying to sell my childhood home with my brothers and the trauma that went in with that. So I'm waiting for Russell to sign in and we'll draw. I don't know what we're going to draw, what we're going to do. I'm looking at paper. This is really nice textured paper. I guess you can see that texture. I'll save that for drawing with a pencil of some sort. Today I had great plans and thankfully they crashed and burned. So I didn't, and there you are. Dear Russell, invite, copy, paste, send. I had plans to do something and that those went away, ran amok. So now I'm taking a break to keep from just killing myself. Here's Russell. Is Russell going to be painting with makeup?
Watercolors, actually.
Watercolors? Okay. Look, I only saw the pinks and blushes. So I was thinking, okay, I don't know why you're not. There you are.
There we go.
I just inhaled a chunk of dust about the size of a golf ball into my lungs.
I dislike it when that happens. Let me close this door here. So what's been going on?
Well, I've been in that little area by the windows that in my studio that was near the couch, but by the windows, you raised up area.
Right.
That's where my wheelchairs were. I got rid of the wheelchairs and then everything that was piled on top of the wheelchairs, I had to figure out what to do with. So my neighbor had some shelves he wanted to get rid of. The neighbor whose house you slept in.
Right.
And I thought, well, I'll put those against the wall and then use that to hang or put a bunch of shit. And then, but on the way over here, they all fell apart. They just, it's just crappy building. And so I have subsequently changed my plan a little bit to have a different kind of setup up there. Right now, there's in the corner that's by the windows, I have created, I'll draw it in sort of perspective here. Here's my windows, my window ledge, the ceiling. Here's my big flag that's on the wall. And I took two really shitty, crappy tables and put them one on top of each other and lashed them with rope and twine to two poles just to keep them together so they won't slip off each other. And then I put my little anatomically correct man, the anatomy lesson. I don't know if you remember him.
Oh, yes.
He's up there. And then I have a whole bunch of upside down wooden tripods lashed out, lashed to this pole. And then these eventually will be holding fezzes, I think, or some sort of hats. I don't know what yet. And then over here, there's a vase, or up here now, I guess there's a vase with more of those things. And there's another one over here. So it will eventually sort of look like a little forest.
I see.
You
I'm
see.
I see the diagram at least. I'm trying to picture it in my head, but
Well, just you don't have to wait. I'll show you on my camera. I just
oh,
took a picture of it. I just had to find how to get to the photographs that don't involve naked men.
yeah, I think YouTube might not care for that so much.
Well, there's a naked man right in the middle of this picture
Yeah, but they won't see that. They're not that observant.
because it's so tiny. But you see, so this surface right there is about 3 feet off the floor. So it's all raised up. And so the tops of these things will have fezzes on them. And then on the flag, I'm just going to nail nails into it and put some other sort of portraits I've done of using my diploma portraits that I've been making. I've
Right.
got some Victorian frames that I'll put those along here. So it'll sort of be a little mix of forest camping and memory lane and ancestors that aren't related to me. But underneath this table and underneath this thing are going to be some old artwork that is in frames that just to get them out of the way, and when I need to show them at Open Studios or something, at least I'll know where they are and I don't have to search for them.
Well, I can think of no better use for the American flag than that.
Yes.
I mean, other than something to start your fire with.
Yes. So that's the plan, and I don't know if I like it, but it's how it is right now.
I don't know that I like the way this is going, but it's happening already.
I do know that I used to have in this nook tripods that were right side up, which held the naked man and globes and other things. And what a tripod that's right side up does is take a lot of floor space away from your feet. So by turning them upside down, it is sort of like you're in a little forest because the branches all spread out, and or they become branches that look like they're spreading out, and I can put chairs and people can sit up here without too much fear. Actually, I think if more than one person was up there at any one time, it would probably all come crashing down. But you'll read about that in the obituary section of the Boston Globe.
Hopefully somebody will mail it to me.
Yes. So did you send me something in the mail?
I did send you something in the mail. I don't know when it will be there, but it should be there with presumably if USPS is not lying within 3 days.
Okay. And when did you send it?
I sent it, I believe, yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
yes.
I went down to get the mail and it hadn't been delivered yet. So I was under the impression I thought that you had sent me something because of you asking me what my address was.
Yes.
So
It's not a
that,
bad suspicion.
that gave me the clue.
Yes.
So I haven't started. Is this our little Christmas gift exchange that we are doing?
Yes, that's what I just sent you.
Okay, that I figured that, and I haven't even started my gift to you. But should I wait until after I finish mine and send it to you before I open what you sent me, or will yours
You can,
inspire me?
I would be very interested to see if mine inspired any particular response.
Okay, then I will open yours. My friend Matt, who you know,
Yes.
he loves writing letters, and um, it takes him a really long time to compose a letter. He writes one draft and then refines it at a different draft, and then it might take a couple of weeks for him to write a letter that might only be 2 or 3 pages long. And it's not about what's happening to him today. It's more about what's happening in the world as we circle the drain. And so the stuff he writes is not urgently temporal. But if he gets 2 letters from someone between the time he um, if he gets a letter from someone and is writing a letter back to them, and he gets a letter from them before he sends his back, he won't open it. He'll wait until he's done. And I said, I don't know if that's wise, because these people might be inviting you to a funeral, or they might have actual important information. But that's just the way he works, and I think it makes sense. And hello, Tasha. How are you doing? Tasha's mother died a couple of weeks ago, which I think I mentioned to you, Russell.
Yes, my condolences.
Um,
Um, but yeah, I can understand wanting to write letters like that. But at the same time, it's hard to conceive of it.
well, especially for those of us that didn't grow up writing letters. I mean, sending a letter was old fashioned when you were born. I mean,
Yes,
people had email then, and they would send an email. Um,
I mean, by the
you
time it came to the point where I might have come of the age when I'd had to write a letter, I never had to, because, like you just said, email had superseded it.
Yeah, I remember learning how to write a letter correctly in grade school. Where we all copied the teacher, to fill out an envelope, and she made sure that she said, "Well, have your mom or dad, write the address of who you were going to send this to, and I'll tell you how to copy it down and things like that. So or how to format it on the letter, on the envelope. So I remember sending one to my grandfather, and I remember the stamp was a 4-cent stamp with purple stamp with Abraham Lincoln on it. It cost 4 cents back then.
Whereas
Yeah,
I
yeah,
paid
I know you're saying, but he wasn't on a stamp because he was still living, is what you're
no,
thinking.
that sounds like a joke my dad would tell. So I'd say the joke would be older than Abraham Lincoln at that point, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So,
But no, here it cost me $1 to send you whatever I sent you in a manila envelope. It can't have weighed that much, though. It was just a piece of paper inside a manila envelope.
I'm just reading Tasha's note here. Well, I'm really sorry. I mean, tell Evie to grieve and don't hide the grief, and eventually the grieving process will come to some sort of a resolution, I guess the right word would be. It's really very sad. It's particularly sad for Evie if your mother was the first person that Evie loved dearly in her life. So it must be really, really difficult. Apropos of nothing, someone on Instagram started following me, and within 6 back and forths, he said, "You're my best friend, heart, 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 heart." And this is someone who's known me for
10 seconds.
12 minutes. And I typed back, "Who was your best friend yesterday?" Won't they feel pretty shitty being dumped by someone that you don't even know the name of?
What did they say to that?
They tried to call me and I refused to answer the phone.
I see. So perhaps they had ulterior motives in wanting to be your best friend.
I think in this case it was this guy wanted me to buy a one-way plane ticket out of India to come and live with me. And I said, "You want to go on a date? Come to Boston. We'll go on a date." "Well, I don't have a passport." "Well, then get one." I can't help you get a passport. Well, I'm glad you had a celebration of her life, Tasha. Funerals are, when they're somber events, it sort of doesn't talk about the person's life. It talks about their death too much. And having an event where it's focused on what they achieved and the funny stories and that sort of thing. What are you drawing, Mr. Russell?
I'm just sort of coloring in something I was working on before.
Okay.
I finished up last night on the line work, and so I decided I would color it.
It looks like some sort of comic strip.
Yes, that's
Okay.
basically what's happening right now.
Uh-huh.
I'm just continuing my never realized dreams of doing comic book work.
Well, I'm sure you could do it with great facility, knowing how you draw. And if I were a comic book publisher, I would say, we're going to break with tradition here, Mr. Basemeyer, and we're going to let you submit the pencil drawings without you having to ink them. Would you like that? Seeing
That,
the
that would be an interesting proposal. It's
I
not completely out of the realm of possibility. Uh,
uh,
Hayao Miyazaki actually did a comic, and after he realized it was taking too long,
uh-huh.
so finally he said he just sort of mentioned to his publisher, I just can't do it in the amount of time that we need. It would be much easier if it were only possible for me to send in to just do pencil and not have to worry about the ink. And his publisher was so desperate that it gets out that he says, "Fine, do the pencils." And so I think it's Nausicaa Valley of the Wind is all of his work in pencil.
Well, and you probably see faint lines where he's planning something out, and you see, a tree, let's say, in the distance had initially been here and now it's over here
Yeah,
because it wasn't erased completely. And I just love that. It's like that Thief and the Cobbler thing movie where you
where
got to see those
it's
black and white
yeah.
sketches, and that was the most lively human part of that entire movie.
Yeah, that's the coolest part of watching that movie, seeing the unfinished bits. Like it looks spectacular whenever you do see the regular movie as it was intended, but
Mm.
those unfinished bits really help to.
Well, it's just with any sort of animation that you see these days, you wonder how far removed from a human hand and a human brain is this? Because you could probably, using some app on your some $3 app on your phone, pick this template and that figure and type in or pick out of the menu walk,
Mhm.
and then it'll automatically walk and or run or trip or whatever they do. And it just seems like, okay, why is a human even involved in this to begin with? Because it's so slick and um, soulless, I
Yeah,
guess.
it's untouched by the human hand.
So seeing things touched is a good thing. Um,
But at the same time, what's weird is that I think the work that I like the best, it's stuff that I look at and I think I don't think I touched that. I don't think I made that. You know.
uh-huh.
So that goes down to either one of two things. Either um,
You're forgetful.
I forgetful. No, that comes down to two preferences. I think one is that what just happens is like a miracle occurs,
Yeah,
right? Make an accident and you run with it, and then it just turns into something you didn't expect.
yeah,
Or it looks so slick or so strange that it's like that doesn't look like anybody could have made it.
yeah.
That's
Well, I think your work always has, whether an actual fingerprint or a uh, metaphorical one of a human in it. Your work, I don't think I've seen anything that has been overly um,
That has been like licked clean.
yeah, I don't want to say overly polished because your work is very uh, it it's it can be very finished, but your paintings are painterly and your drawings are drawerly. Even the even if you did something that was done on an iPad where it's just made up of ones and zeros, I would have a feeling that it would still have what uh, I would recognize as a human touching it. Whereas there are some drawings I see of people on Instagram, and mainly Instagram, where it looks like you bought an app where you press a button and it turns your photograph you just took into a line drawing.
Yeah.
And
I think that's what your drawings on the tablet actually are interesting because I can tell that you're working with, preformed shapes, well, quasi preformed, right?
yeah, yeah,
But, but you're still layering it so well that, they come out as really, really independent paintings. I mean, independent. I don't know that they're independent of they look independent of the algorithm.
yeah, yeah.
Your decisions add up. Remind like they're sort of futurist, sort of
Yeah, it does depend on what app I'm using and the mood I'm in.
yeah,
I went to one of my favorite buildings in Boston is the Boston Opera House, and you walk into the lobby, and it's gold, curlicue plaster and marble and mirrors and chandeliers. And I'll show you a picture of what it looks like here if I can find where I posted it. Facebook. And Urban Sketchers, Boston. Um, so, for example, this
yeah.
space I turned into this.
So it just sort of gets like even more elaborate and
Well, it can get more elaborate and more curly QE, and then it's also, where there used to be, lots of curly Qs in that little section right there.
yeah,
It's turned into just some mush, but it's nice mush. But
yeah.
I
It's
drew that one using a pen rather than my usual vector tool.
Mhm.
So you can see how I'm making it here.
Yeah, with those sort of calligraphic. Uh,
Yeah, it's more calligraphic than my normal thing, which tends to look Italian futuristic,
mhm.
where I draw where that
Well,
tool I use
and then you add
is
an
better at drawing triangles
yeah.
and squares and uh, um, some cone-like things. Like this drawing here, I did using my usual tool, the vector tool, and um, so that's how this one was made. And I can draw this way a lot faster than I can drawing the other way.
Mhm.
Um, but it was, but I still, I want people to see two things: that a human did it, and if they know my work, that Pierre Gustafson did it, and that I did it on an iPad. Some people say, gee, that looks like a oil painting. Well, no, look at it closely, zoom in. Um, it's clearly made on a device. I'm not trying to hide that.
And
There's
then
there's one guy that I follow on Instagram who does beautiful figure drawings, and but after he does it on paper, he evidently takes a picture of it and then imports it into some app, and then he puts it on a background that looks like wallpaper, some sort of pattern to it.
Right.
So to me, I thought he made it all on the iPad, and he said, no, I do it on paper. So that was sort of surprising that he took something that was entirely old school and then decided to add this little thing to it, which I don't think in that particular case, I don't think it helps his work. I don't think it's necessarily an improvement.
Yeah, it doesn't add anything necessarily. It's more like a framing device.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can find where one of them are. I just don't remember people's names.
But that reminds me of a webcomic artist that I followed years ago. I don't know if he's still working, but he shared his working process at one point, and the way that he did it is he did his first sketches digitally, right?
Okay.
And then he would print them out in their sketchy form onto real paper, and then he would take ink and go over that.
Okay.
The lines that he sketched out were all in blue, so he took the ink and then he scanned in the page so that it didn't capture the blue lines. And so he would have the finished copy done digitally.
Okay.
Or rather,
well, I mean that's a process. I suspect he was drawing things that would have to be printed, right?
No, they wouldn't be printed out. They would be seen on a computer.
Okay.
Because they were a web comic. So
okay. Well, I mean, doing the blue line and then inking it, that's all part of the old-fashioned way of doing
it. The old-fashioned thing.
But so here's this guy's work. So he did the figure in pencil, and then he scans it in and then adds this background to it.
I can see how it would add to it.
And here's what it looks like without it. Or what, so it's clearly but anyway, I just thought
I mean, the one where it doesn't have the background, right?
Yeah.
It feels
empty.
No, it doesn't feel empty. It feels more like an actual drawing in the real world, right?
Yeah.
Second one feels like almost like a fashion advertisement or something.
Yeah.
The term that comes to me is what is it? It's lost me. I've lost it. I should remember it.
So this one, this I think was all done. You can see the texture of the paper even. And I think this was all done on paper. The other ones just have this slickness to it that I don't think adds to I think it detracts more than adds. But I mean, sometimes it can be fun, like this one. It makes, I don't know. Anyway, you got me.
I mean, I guess it just comes down to taste, doesn't it?
But look at he's really, really good, I think.
Oh yeah. He can capture those gestures incredibly.
Yeah. I'll send you his thing. You can follow him. If you want.
Yeah, sure.
But there are people though that do everything. Everything is on the iPad, and it's so all of the line weight is exactly the same. And if the iPad didn't exist, it looked like he used perfectly white, perfectly smooth paper with a technical pen and a light box, and he just traced a photograph.
Yeah.
And I do that sometimes when I have to do a line drawing of someone's face. I I I just so I can do it quickly and be done with it. And I draw it, I trace over it with the lines, and then I send it to them, and they say, "Well, why do I look fat? Because you eat too much? I don't know."
And you just tell them, well, because you're fat.
And I said, you know, I don't really, I'm not a caricaturist, and even a caricaturist has to decide what
What
part of the face you're going to exaggerate. And if someone has, let's say, a big nose or big ears, they might be they might not want that part exaggerated, you know, and they might, but I don't know. They don't tell me that. They don't tell me what, you know, one person said, "Make me look pretty." Well, she looks pretty to begin with, but pretty to her might have be a little button nose or fuller lips or longer hair or,
or
you
like
know, I had
a metal plate in the lip or something.
I have no idea what she means by pretty. If she said make me look thinner, I know how to do that. Or make my lips fuller, I know how to do that. But I know that when you trace a photograph with a line and you're exact, you put it right there on the edge of the cheek and the ear and whatever, that the line does add so much importance to the shape of the cheek or the chin or the ear or whatever it is, that it sort of draws attention to it more than maybe it normally would. I don't know how to do caricatures though. I don't know how to even reduce a face in line. I can do it in value, but these things had to be in line and they were going to be on a order form for their company. Um, so you could order stuff on the phone, on your phone.
Hmm.
So they were going to be maybe this big on your phone at the most, you know, so 6 pixels wide for the face. And how, you know, how does that work in line? You know, it's just, it's a hard thing to do. I think I should learn how to do it.
Yeah, to get that sort of bare minimum and still have people recognize who who you're looking at.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I don't know how to do that. There was one guy that who's a really, really good caricaturist, and he does really good uh, tutorials on YouTube. Um, and he was drawing Benedict Cumberbatch. You know who he is?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was one of the founding fathers, wasn't he?
Yeah. No, Benedict Cumberbatch is a
He's an actor.
he's an actor, but his face is already a caricature. It's so angular and uh, but this guy did a really good tutorial about how he would draw him, and I think partly because it was an easy one, because he is, you know, he has very
Feature.
defined cheekbones, for example, and his shape of his head is appears to be very triangular because he has a uh, long sort of lower jaw kind of a thing. Anyway, but this is the thing that I didn't realize, and it was really a cool thing to mention, was he said you have to start by knowing your audience.
Mm. So
And
if you're drawing Benedict Cumberbatch and all of the people are you're drawing for are Benedict Cumberbatch fangirls, And
Yes.
probably better draw Benedict Cumberbatch so that he looks like a cute caricature rather than as an ugly one.
A sinister one. Well, he was speaking more of, let's say you lived in Japan and you were drawing this for the Japanese audience. He said you have to sort of know what if there's a way to make a typical Japanese face, where a typical Japanese face um, has a certain kind of proportion between nose and chin and cheek and head and whatever. He said you sort of have to understand what your audience is first, and then work understanding that, um, and then move outward from there. And I had never thought about that before. And I don't know if I entirely believe it, but I like the idea of the belief of it to know what the generic face is, even knowing what is the generic face. That's a hard thing to know because we're all different. But I think maybe by knowing your audience makes it easier to know what the generic face is for that group.
So I imagine a generic face, if you can see it, would be something like something like that.
Yeah. And which one does he look like? Is it Elmer, or the Muppet people from?
Oh, um, do you mean the ones who are shouting from the balcony?
No, the ones that the Ernie and
Oh, that you. I expect. I suppose that would be Bert. So
Bert. Then,
Bert
yep.
is our average face here.
I mean it looked like Bert to me.
I can see that because he has sort of the unibrow going on, and
He does. Yes.
I failed to do a generic face because you've you've already clocked that drawing as a he, and so
It's only because the unibrow it was either Bert or Frida Kahlo.
that's a good point. But I think,
And the bald head reminded me of Bert.
but I think that shows you that there's always going to be a little bit of internal bias, or there's always going to be a pre-selection, right? Whenever we start out to do something, so I think that's the real challenge of the caricaturist art, maybe, in regards to what you were just saying.
Yeah.
Being able to go past your own selections, right? Because you've seen like those old portraits from the 19th not 19th, but the 18th century, where they'll portray Indians, or
Oh
not,
yeah.
but Native Americans, and they look like white people but with brown skin, right?
Uh-huh.
Most of
Yeah.
the time. So, there's that bias there. So it's a difficult thing to get to if you're used to drawing a certain type of person.
And looking at all of the different Jesuses that were out there,
Oh
that's
yeah.
a good example where, the Durer makes Jesus look like he's from Nuremberg. you know. I listened last night. I woke up at 3 in the morning or something, and I said, well, let me just watch something on YouTube, and I I for some reason turned on Sibelius's Violin Concerto. Do you know that piece?
I don't think I know that piece, no.
It's amazing, and it to me it sounds like a headlong train that doesn't have any brakes going toward a bridge that is out. It's just this rush of of I'll play part of it here, unless I'm going to be banned from YouTube for playing it. From
I
But
feel like YouTube doesn't care that much about copyright claims for classical music, but we'll find out.
but it was really fun. Um, I'll try to find my favorites, or one of my favorite spots. Okay. Let me get to the Allegro Mag. Okay, here we go. The third. Okay, here's the third movement. And I think it's.
Oh,
This is the.
now I see it. Or hear it anyway.
So this is the train going toward the cliff. There's a part where she plays the natural note. She doesn't press the string all the way down to the fret or the neck, and it's really creepy. It lasts for only about 15 seconds. Let's see if I can find it here. Do you like it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like that.
Here it is, I think, coming up. She's clearly loving it. She's smiling really, really. Here it is, I think. Oh, no, not yet. Maybe it's comes up here. No, not here yet. Carson says, "Good to see you, Russell."
Good to see you too, Carson. I don't remember who Carson is.
Maybe it's here.
This is really good music, but I don't expect it would necessarily help you to sleep.
No, not this one. Ding, ding, ding. I've been humming this all day long. Here it is. Here it is. It's coming up right here. I think. Yes, it's right here.
Ooh.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, I wouldn't expect that music, that kind of sound to come out of a.
Yeah, I mean, she holds the string, but she doesn't press it to the fret. And Carson can say what that's called. What is that called? The natural note or something? Someone, I haven't thought about this in 40 years. I used to play this when I was in college. I mean, play the record. Um, but it was so haunting that little tiny bit. Um,
Because it almost sounds like a whistle or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah. It doesn't. It is. Uh, yeah, it does sound like a whistle. Um, it's it doesn't have the resonance, I guess, of when it hits the sound or the neck, this whatever that part of the violin is called. Uh,
But it sort of reminded me of I can't remember the name of the composer, but he wrote a piece that's called "The Devil's Trill,"
huh.
which he supposedly wrote after having a dream in which the devil played the violin for him.
Okay.
Uh,
Sounds like something that someone might have written for Paganini.
that is
But
Paganini, actually. I think maybe
Paganini wrote it.
I might be wrong. I don't remember. Let me look at it. Let's see.
Um, do you know Sibelius's music, Carson? Very much.
It was a fellow called Tartini.
Tartini. Okay.
Tartini.
But did he write it for Paganini? Do you know?
Oh, he just wrote it.
Oh, okay. Because some people thought that Paganini was possessed because he was so good, too good. I didn't think that a violin had frets. I thought the frets were the things like guitars have and ukuleles have. But they might call it a fret board or
I wouldn't have expected a violin to have frets either.
no the fret they but they might call that whole thing a fret. And
Well, I mean, if it worried you that much, I suppose it would be a fret, but um,
yes, full
but
of frets.
yes. Or I suppose
There
if you found it like that, if you thought it might be dangerous, it might be a fret.
yeah. The one of my favorite Sibelius's pieces is called "The Swan of Tunolia," and that I think has the cello playing a part in that. Um, uh, Carson, when you say things like "true," I don't know what you're referring to. It's sort of hard to know when one word could be a response to who knows what we were talking about. Swan of Tunolia. And I think that this has a cello part in it that's quite. Find one that has the pictures of the instruments here. Tuonela. Okay, this is maybe a bass cello. This is very calming. Here we go, I think. Oh, well, I missed that. Here we go. That's what I was thinking of, that part. He was expecting you to make a pun about the fret. So that was the smiley face.
Well, I'm glad that we could deliver on that expectation.
That you're true to form.
Yes.
So you're making a turtle all the way down. Is this a turtle all the way down or just part of the way?
This is a giant crab.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He just happens to look a bit like a turtle because
He certainly doesn't look like a crab.
no, he's got a large set of teeth here.
Oh, I can see. He has very happy teeth.
Yes. No, I've been working him in. I was working in another book which doesn't accept watercolors so readily.
Uh-huh.
Let's see. Here's a earlier rendition.
Okay.
And then here's him a little bit up close.
Cool. So Carson, do you still play the cello? I mean, actively, or do you play with orchestra, or just with in the basement, in the soundproof basement, so you don't bother the neighbors, or how do you play the cello?
I'm not certain whether I would be able to play an instrument.
You're not sure you could? I would think you could.
I mean, I played the trumpet for a small amount of time, like in middle school and high school.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I progressed anywhere past. I don't think I even got anywhere near like journeyman status. Let's say.
Based on your singing, I would think that you have a very keen sense of how music works, though. Oh, very sweet, Carson. We are his two favorite artists.
Well, I'm flattered. Um, it's flattered enough that I'm not going to come up uh,
The retort
with a retort.
with a bon mot.
Yes.
Hey, Gary Scott. Do you always paint that way when you're drawing on? You hold the pen brush almost vertically,
I
which is
I believe that's how I do it most of the time. I've gotten to the point where I've started holding the pencil a bit like this too.
yeah,
I'm going to give myself arthritis one of these days, but it's worth it.
yeah. Um, Carson goes out in nature with his cello and plays.
I don't know whether that would be easier or harder to do than like taking a. I feel like that would be slightly easier to do than taking, say, a canvas out and painting outdoors.
Well, you need a chair and you need a piece of relatively hard ground to put your cello spike into the ground. And if you have a music stand to bring, then you need to have that, and it can't be too windy. So I think all in all, it's probably about the same.
Yeah, just judging from what I've heard you describe, it sounds similar to taking a canvas out and putting it on an easel and bringing a chair.
And bringing your turpentine and lugging everything along and your paint rags, and soon you've got the entire studio outside with you, and your umbrella. Bring your umbrellas, like so you can see what you're doing. Now I think my instrument of choice these days is the ukulele, and it's just absolutely perfect because I can slouch on the couch with the ukulele, and I can still play as well as I can if I'm standing up, almost.
Well, it's an instrument that almost seems destined for use in the hammock.
Yeah. Or I don't know if a hammock would be as, because I guess if you could situate you need to move your arm that strums a lot, uh, or maybe the other one. I don't know. It's like the elbow. The elbow. I think if I'm on a hammock, I've got this fabric that's pressing up against my elbow and
Right.
might restrict my movement.
So that one's a no go.
But I suppose the easiest instrument other than the voice would be a harmonica, or even though that might be harder than like a clarinet.
I don't know.
Because
Never.
you have to move the harmonica back and forth like this. Whereas, or I guess you could move your head. I'm just trying to imagine in a hammock how I feel very restricted in a hammock, I guess. The shoulders are, it depends on what sort of hammock you have, I guess. If you have the kind that the sailors had, where it's just a sack with two pieces of rope holding it up, that's one thing. But if you have the flat kind of hammock, that might allow you to move your arms more. Well, that's a lovely picture so far.
Well, it's starting to get somewhere. The problem, the problem, of course, mainly is whether I want to go back over it and add outlines to these things, or whether I want to just
I think outlines what in like ink.
either ink or just going over it again in pencil or just painting.
Just paint it. I when I see when I see people from urban sketchers, many of them like using waterproof ink and they draw a building and then they go home and they add the watercolor and it looks like a coloring book to me, because everything has a dark black outline or a stained glass window or something. And I don't want to say there's anything again wrong with stained glass windows or coloring books necessarily, but that line really anchors. It just takes the atmospheric perspective that you might have going and kills it.
Hmm.
Don't you think?
The line?
A black line between an object, let's say the turtle or the crab, and the background. It's sort of that line sort of belongs to both the turtle and the background, in a way
Oh, yeah.
that to me it flattens everything out, everything out. And of course, the line doesn't exist in reality. You don't see a black outline around the objects you look at.
No.
So I always find that it flattens things out more than I would like.
Yeah, it just depends on the desired effect, I suppose.
Yeah. Now, in a comic book, for example, um, comic books are not really ever meant to be realistic, I suppose. And I think they kind of um, are akin to. I'm going to get all sorts of people upset with me for saying this. They're kind of akin to a coloring book. You think of a coloring book as how you first learned how to draw, and it was something. And oftentimes people think of comics as being for children.
Mhm.
So I'll continue to dig a hole. Wait for all the horrible comments I'm going to get from people that do comics.
Well,
And
if I mean, on in your favor, you have the whole pipeline for comics, right? Is determined by classically uh, three separate people. You'll have a line artist, right? Then you'll
yeah,
have an inker, and then you'll have a colorist.
yeah,
So you've got three people doing very different work to
and
create.
then a fourth for the letterer,
Yes,
and
that's true.
then a fifth if it's someone's story you're illustrating.
Mhm.
So it is this collaborative effect, and maybe
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, if you think about it, you've got the person who does the original drawing, right?
yeah,
And then you've got some guy or some lady or some whomever coming in to put the ink over that and create a solid outline. Well, they've
yeah,
essentially just created a coloring book for the last person in line, the colorist.
yeah.
So it's
There is a connection there between the in the process and how a coloring book works.
yeah.
But
Too, if you think about like Italian fresco paintings, they're pouncing the outlines onto the ceiling or the wall or what have you, and then the apprentices are adding in their colors, and
yeah,
the lead artist is just coming in at the very end most of the time.
to add the shadows
Yes, to add the
and,
shadow.
and muscles and stuff like that. Yeah.
I think might help this one here is putting in colored pencil at some point just to reinforce things, because what I'm really concerned with is getting the correct amount of contrast
Uh-huh.
just to see what might happen.
So our next Urban Sketcher event is going to be on Sunday, and it's going to be at the Galleria Mall, where I spent 2 hours yesterday at the Genius Bar at Mac, where they told me that, oh, we don't fix them. We don't
Yeah.
fix any of our products. We sell you new ones. We're not allowed to even look inside of an iPhone or an iPad.
So much for geniuses, huh?
Well, he did tell me what he thought the problem was. And I said, well, this is what I learned on YouTube. And I said, I'm YouTube certified. And then I talked about the guy on YouTube is my professor. I said, my professor told me, and he thought that was very funny. But what I think I'm going to do when I go to this place on Sunday, which is just, it's like any modern mall. It's just 99.999% of the stuff that they're selling is stuff that you would never want. And it's all brand new, and which, just, it doesn't make me smile at all. And it's presented in a environment that is so polished and clean that I don't like that either. But what I thought I would do is I found, I'll just bring it over here. I'll start my work right now. I've got my scissors. And I'll find my box. If I can find it. What I try to do, Russell, when I go to these urban sketch meetups is to bring maybe a different medium with me. So I'm not always working on my iPad or not always working with pen and ink on paper. Maybe I'll bring pencils or pastel paper and stuff. But I did a nice rendering. I can't show it to you because it's in a case downstairs, but there was a book of Al Held's
Well,
drawings, which were just big, simple black. It sort of looked like a complicated Chinese character that wasn't completely completed. So the shapes look sort of random, but they were really big and bold. So I found this crate and barrel. There's the T and the E from crate, and here's the R, E, and L of barrel. And I think I'm going to bring this I'm just going to cut them into 12 or 8 by 8 inch squares and use the black and white that's already printed here as part of my drawing. And just find some place that looks like this, and then just finish the drawing. Does that sound like an idea or what?
that sounds like an idea.
Let me rephrase that. Does that sound like a good idea?
It sounds like an excellent idea.
Ah, thank you. I once went to the Boston Public Library and I got a piece of paper that was 6 inches tall, or 8 inches tall, or maybe 12 inches tall. I can't remember. And I made it about 20 feet long. And I laid it out on the floor, and then I wrote Boston Public Library in a magic marker.
Mhm.
And then I went into the Boston Public Library, and then I picked a little viewpoint where I was, and I arranged my little bit of that big long piece of paper to draw. And the first line was already there, so I had to find, is that line between the P and the B in public? Is that going to be the stairwell railing, or is that going to be the chandelier detail, or is it going to be the arm of the guy sitting there reading the book over there? So it was sort of fun having a uh, a predetermined shape determine what I'm going to draw. Otherwise, I'll just draw the same fucking thing. You know, find some interesting piece of architecture and draw it. And that tends to be my go-to routine.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts?
I mean, it helps. I, you know, it's sort of a new variation on what you'll do with like the Village Idiots or
Yeah,
that
yeah,
one. I mean, I remember you had a book of calligraphic characters that you turned into caricatures,
yeah, yeah.
and so it's sort of a variation on
It's
that.
sort of like that. But so, you know, if this was the start of my drawing, you know, where am I going to find something? And I'm going to bring white Prismacolor pencil and black Prismacolor pencil. Let me just see if white and black work on this cardboard. Prismacolor is great, but it sort of needs to have a texture paper. Now here's my Prismacolor. Okay, so that's visible. And the black, I don't know if this is black or indigo. Noir, it says it's black. So what I'll do is I'll just have white and black pencils and these started things. The white is sort of dead though, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I
I'll
mean,
bring my iPad in case I decide I fucked it up. See what silver does. Ooh, silver is nice.
that does look really good.
And maybe silver also can be on the black instead. Can anyway, I'll figure it out. So I've got one. But I like the fact that it's a crate and barrel box I'm cutting up. I don't know if they have a crate and barrel there, but they have something probably like it.
I suppose the store might not be considered so appealing if it was crate and cardboard box or something of the like.
Yes. I still have that fucking Sibelius in my head.
I know how you feel. I'll get songs.
Huh?
I know how you feel. I'll get songs stuck in my head.
There's a guy I know on Instagram, and he's a conductor. And I'm going to show you his picture, and you tell me what's missing.
Okay.
What's missing?
Let me get a closer look here. It looks like he's missing his ears.
Yeah, I said you have the most aerodynamic ears I've ever seen. His ears in all of his pictures, there's hardly any ear there. It's like staple gun to the side of his head. It's very funny. And he's a conductor, so I wonder if that's harm, whether he has to turn his head more.
He probably has to get his ears like clipped forward with some paper clips or something of the
But isn't it weird?
best.
I'm,
It's
I,
just
I thought I thought, oh my God, um,
they
but
must
even when you see him sort of from a 3/4 view, well, you don't notice it there, but when you're looking at him straight on, his ears just completely disappear. Almost. Like here's another one. Or this one. No- Again, it's now how would you caricaturize that?
I mean, you just draw him without the ears, less work for you, right?
But that's what he looks like already. You're not you're not making any exaggeration. You're just drawing what.
Sometimes the best drawing is what you don't draw. A while ago,
What?
I sent Leonardo, uh, my friend who lives in Italy, a Christmas gift,
Uh-huh.
and I sent him what would be to us at least a lousy Christmas gift. I don't know; it depends on your taste. Because he couldn't get these very easily in Italy, I sent to him 2 boxes of Kraft macaroni and cheese,
Oh God.
also some peanut butter and some Welch's grape jelly. And
Uh
these items right now are apparently, according to USPS, in a sorting station at Milan. So
okay.
we'll see if he gets them. These
Well,
items cost what?
I wonder what his response will be.
My suspicion, he knows what he's getting already because
Oh, he does?
I asked him what I could get him for Christmas, and I somehow it came to the point where I told him, "Yes, I will get you some peanut butter macaroni." And,
I'm missing almost everything you're saying because it's cutting out.
right. So it somehow came to the point where after I asked him, I can't remember how we came to it, but we came to the decision that I would send him macaroni and cheese and peanut butter and jelly.
Uh,
And, yeah, the total cost to buy these items was about $10, and the shipping fee was 64.
oh my God.
Yeah.
Uh,
So Merry Christmas, Leonardo.
God. That was very nice of you to do that. But
Well, I don't know yet because he hasn't tried them. My suspicion, or my prediction, we might say, is that he will try the peanut butter and jelly, and he will love it. And then he will try the macaroni and cheese, and he will be absolutely confused or disappointed.
I would think that I would think disappointment would be and pity. He would pity poor us that have to eat that.
You would pity all the children who grew up on it and now, even now, still have a taste for it.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you, I'm certain that if I were to have some again, I would like it.
Yeah. No, it's it's entirely understandable. It's become our comfort food, and of course we want it. So anyway, so here they are. I've got enough to make 10 little drawings and some, but my assignment to myself is that each area that's black has to be considered kind of aggressively in what I choose to draw. And it might be something that I don't want to draw, but I like the idea that it's sort of forcing me to do something.
And I think that's the power of these kinds of little assignments, right? It gets you doing something that you normally wouldn't do, and so you have to come up with all sorts of solutions to get through it.
Yeah.
For my part, I'm still trying to remember how color works.
Another scammer just said to me, "What's your name and where are you from?" And then within a few, more back and forths, he'll say how beautiful I am and how, oh, can we talk on WhatsApp? For some reason, it's easier for them to scam if I'm on there. And I say, no, I don't have that. Oh, then I can't talk to you, dear. Well, we're talking here, aren't we?
But I don't want to talk here.
So I just told this guy said, what's your name and where are you from? And my profile has my fucking name right on it. If he bothers to look. Oh, so I think maybe silver might be the way to go because silver functions on both on the black and the white. You see
Makes
it
sense.
on both, but you do have to sort of look at the image from. I mean, it'll work. It'll work. Just silver, and it seems to me I have a whole box of silver pencils that I bought on eBay that are all Prismacolor silver. So that'll make my supply list manageable. So that letter, that embroidered letter was pretty cool, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. Took me a minute to remember. But yeah. All of the things that you send me tend to be pretty remarkable.
Yeah. Well, I try not to send you things that are just funny or just weird, but usually they have a reason why I'm sending them to you. But that was pretty damn cool.
Mm-hmm. That letter probably took about as much time as it does just for Matt to write one.
Yes. Oh, let me see if I can find my silver pencils now that I'm planning my entire oeuvre to be done in that Oh, here's gold. Gold and bronze. That's not what I want. Those are white. And black. Metallic gold. I got a lot of these on eBay where someone was just selling a whole shitload of. So these are silver, but they're the fine ones,
Hmm.
and they
Like,
tend to break. They're not the thick leads; they're the thin leads, thinner.
oh, okay. When you said fine, I thought you meant their quality rather than their weight.
I thought I also had there was a really cheap frame that I've got a bunch of that had uh, a window, a mat like this cut into lots of little windows, and you were supposed to stick all of your family members in these 20 different holes. And so I just took them all out and cut them up, and I thought I could also build drawings out of this.
You know, the last time I stuck 20 of my family members in holes, I got charged with
With murder.
yeah, I got charged with attempted murder.
I see. You didn't kill them first. You just
No,
put them in.
those bastards dig. I tell you, you wouldn't think they'd be so good at digging themselves out, but they got through.
Hold on. I can't quite hear. I'm looking for more. You know, if my house didn't have so much crap in it, I could maybe walk. Silver. These are all very thins, though. I don't want very thins. I want fat ones. Oh, maybe I have enough. Metallic green? What the hell is that?
I guess it's like regular green but metallic.
I don't like that. That is not, that does not work for me. Metallic green. What does gold do? Ooh, gold is kind of nice. See?
Oh, that does look nice.
But I'll save that for drawing the opera house.
That'd work real natural well.
Yeah,
It would work really well for drawing that opera house.
for all
In a
that.
similar kind of way as to what you did on the iPad.
Yeah. Well, I think I have what I need. I have. Oh, I was supposed to throw these away. I mean, put them away. So I've got silver, silver, silver. Not silver. Need silver and black. So I'm not going to bring white or black at all. And look, I've got my little thing all made out here with my pencil sharpener already in it. Aren't I clever?
I won't refute that.
You finding any more of those non-animal fat lithocrayons anywhere?
No, well, what I've managed to do at one point, I've managed to find somebody selling an antique set on eBay.
Okay.
It was up. They didn't cost very much.
Even if they did have animal stuff in it, they're not new ones. They're not new animals.
And so, nobody's destroying an animal's life to make them. Either way, though, they're not as good as yours, but I have a suspicion it's because they were not as fresh or not kept as fresh because they seem to have been dried out.
The ones I had?
No, the ones that I bought.
Oh, the ones you bought. Okay.
I enjoy working with litho crayons, but I'm always haunted by the fact that I know I'm using them in a way that they were not intended to be used.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm using a crate and barrel box in a way that it wasn't intended to be used either, and it's fine. Anything that I can take out of the recycling to just add my little bit of stuff to, I think is good. There's another silver one, I think. Silver. Okay, I think I've got enough. Russell,
Yeah.
I think it's time for me to say goodbye and to try to attack my little clusterfuck that I I needed to take a break from, and you provided that. And but we will see you soon, and I suppose the next time I talk with you, you'll be back home or to your other home.
Yeah, I'll be at the university at that point.
Okay. Well, I look forward to talking to you then, and thank you for visiting with me here.
Oh yeah,
So,
my pleasure.
and I'll go down to the post office, down to the mail room, and see if your box has arrived or your envelope.
We'll see.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye bye.